Nuclear warning: Russian forces fire rockets at nuclear reactor in Kharkiv as officials warn of severe radiation consequences. Russian forces have fired rockets at a nuclear research facility in the besieged city of Kharkiv, Ukrainian officials have claimed. A Ukrainian minister warned the shelling of Kharkiv's Institute of Physics and Technology could lead to a major environmental disaster. The institute is home to a facility called Neutron Source, which contains a nuclear reactor used for research. The same site was attacked by Russian troops earlier this month. On Saturday, the Ukrainian parliament said it wasn't possible to assess the extent of the damage from the latest attack due to fierce fighting in the area. The State Nuclear Regulatory Inspectorate of Ukraine reportedly said, the continuation of its bombardment can lead to severe radiation consequences with contamination of nearby territories. The agency previously accused Russia of committing an act of nuclear terrorism by bombing the research facility. Emin Zepper, Ukraine's Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, said, the Russian aggressor fired rocket Grad systems on the territory of the Kharkiv Institute, where the nuclear installation, source of neutrons, is located, in the active zone of which 37 fuel nuclear cells were loaded. The destruction of a nuclear facility and nuclear material storage facilities could lead to a major environmental disaster. Ukraine continues to gather evidence of Russian war crimes to The Hague. Kharkiv, Ukraine's second-largest city, has seen some of the worst bombing since the war began on February 24. It comes after Russian forces took control of an area near the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, Interfax Ukraine news agency quoted the local mayor as saying. The governor of Kyiv region, Oleksandr Pavlyuk, had earlier announced the capture of Slavudik in an online post. The town sits just outside a safety exclusion zone around Chernobyl, the site of the world's worst nuclear disaster in 1986, where Ukrainian staff have continued to manage the site even after it was occupied by Russian forces. The Russian military seized the decommissioned Chernobyl plant in the first week of the invasion as one of their first objectives. Slavudik has been under occupation since today. We steadfastly defended our city. 3 deaths have been confirmed so far, Mayor Yuri Fomashev said. While Russia's war in Ukraine is unlikely to see the use of nuclear weapons, it is feared reckless behavior by the Russians could trigger a new catastrophe. The International Atomic Energy Agency said it was closely monitoring the situation and raised concerns about the ability of staff to rotate in and out of the atomic power station. War hotspot. Pavlyuk said the Russians fired into the air to disperse a protest in the center of the town and threw stun grenades into the crowd. Ukrainian presidential advisor Oleksiy Arestovich said the town had become a new hotspot of the war. Russian troops have already stolen unstable nuclear samples after ransacking a lab at the Chernobyl power plant. Putin's men are believed to have then destroyed the £5 million lab, which was full of nuclear waste and located in the radioactive exclusion zone, according to the state agency of Ukraine. The agency said the stolen radionuclides are highly active. Radionuclides are unstable atoms of chemical elements that release radiation. The fact these are now in the hands of the Russians is a major concern. It said it hoped Russian troops will harm themselves and not the civilized world with their lethal loot from the Central Analytical Laboratory. In a statement, the agency said, the laboratory contained highly active samples and samples of radionuclides that are now in the hands of the enemy. Worryingly, radiation levels let off from the destruction of the lab cannot be measured as the Russians destroyed the monitoring system, according to state nuclear company Energoatom. Communications with the site have been intermittent since the invasion. Fight back inside Ukraine's heroic struggle to reclaim Kherson after becoming first major city captured by Putin. The Ukrainian port of Kherson was the first major city to be captured by Vladimir Putin. But in the past 48 hours, home forces have launched a heroic retaliation that symbolizes the spirit of their nation. And Markian Lubkivsky, an advisor to the Ukrainian defense minister, said yesterday, I believe that today the city will be fully under the control of Ukrainian armed forces. We have finished the operation in the Kyiv region, so other armed forces are now focused on the southern part, trying to free Kherson and some other Ukrainian cities. Kherson fell to the Russians on March 2nd, but its people have been protesting daily in the city's central Liberty Square. On Monday, a student in her early 20s was there amid a peaceful protest and a stun grenade exploded and there was gunfire. Capturing it on video, she said, residents had been chanting, "Go home." People fled. There were clouds of smoke. I found it difficult to breathe and ran for my life. A video obtained by CNN later showed a pensioner bleeding from a leg wound. But a second resident said the protesters were back to confront the Russians the next day. Videos showed Russian forces responding with tear gas grenades and warning shots. Meanwhile, a leaked letter from an FSB spy agency whistleblower has claimed the residents' defiance will lead to them being kidnapped and taken into Russia. Brave Nadia, a shop worker also in her 20s, told me, "I'm not leaving. We are strong people and we're becoming stronger. I'm staying here to show Kherson is Ukrainian." The courageous women, like their city, remain unbowed. Rocket blitz Lviv rocked by cruise missile blasts as Putin opens chilling new war frontier in West Ukraine near NATO border. 3 Russian missiles exploded in Ukraine's largest western city less than a day after Putin vowed to focus on the east. At least 5 people were injured after the blasts in Lviv, which is just 45 miles from NATO member Poland's border. Thick black smoke was seen rising from a TV tower as the city's air raid sirens were activated. TV towers across Ukraine's other cities have also been a target of missile strikes throughout the war. It is the first time Putin's military might has been seen from the center of the city, which has been a safer destination in the country for refugees. Lviv's mayor Andriy Sadovyai said a fuel storage facility is on fire as a result of the shelling. He urged everyone to stay in shelters. Humiliated tyrant Putin yesterday vowed his troops would focus on liberating pro-Russian separatists in the eastern Donbass region. But advisor to Ukraine's Ministry of Defense Markian Lubkivsky said he was skeptical over the claims. It comes after President Zelensky said 16,000 Russian troops have been killed so far in Ukraine as his soldiers fight to retake the first city that Putin seized. The Ukrainian leader, 44, said his troops had delivered powerful blows to Moscow's forces around Kyiv and urged the Kremlin to negotiate an end to the bloody war. But he vowed he would never let any Ukrainian territory be handed over to tyrant Putin, 69. Mr. Zelensky also warned that Russia's bragging about its nuclear power is fueling a dangerous arms race. It came as advisor to Ukraine's Ministry of Defense Markian Lubkivsky predicted troops could take back southern port city Kherson today. Mr. Lubkivsky said, "I believe that today the city will be fully under the control of Ukrainian armed forces. We have finished in the last 2 days the operation in the Kyiv region, so other armed forces are now focused on the southern part trying to get free Kherson and some other Ukrainian cities." Kherson, at the mouth of the Dnieper River, fell earlier this month in Russia's first major gain of the war. But a U.S. defense official said Russian control in the strategic city appeared to be waning as Ukrainian troops fight back. The official said, "We would argue that Kherson is actually contested territory again. We can't corroborate exactly who is in control of Kherson, but the point is, it doesn't appear to be as solidly in Russian control as it was before." They added that if Ukraine did regain control, Russian troops around Mykolaiv would end up sandwiched between defense forces. The official said, that would make it very, very difficult for them to make any kind of ground movement on Odessa. That would be a significant development, no question about that, in terms of the southern part of the war. Ukraine is also said to be close to major victories in the battle for Kyiv as British defense officials said there was now a realistic possibility that the towns of Bucha and Irpin would be encircled by Ukrainian forces. The Ministry of Defense said Russian troops are facing considerable supply and morale issues, and it was unlikely they would be able to regroup and take the capital.